Something is opening. You have felt it already. A particular restlessness in the nights leading to this one, an alertness that arrives without object, a quality of wakefulness in the body even when the mind reaches for sleep and finds instead this low, persistent current of something approaching. You have felt this before significant thresholds and learned not to explain it to people who read it as anxiety. The Arcturian Council has held the specific material in this transmission back, not from you but for you, reserved for the precise window that opens in the days before the full moon in Taurus on May 1st. That window is now. Receive this. The Wesak window is one of the most precisely documented transmission events in the esoteric cosmological record. Across traditions, Tibetan Buddhism, the Theosophical lineage, and now the Arcturian framework this transmission speaks from, this moment is named as the annual convergence point at which the highest frequency intelligences aligned with this planet's evolution gather in a coordinated broadcast event. In the Arcturian understanding, the full moon in Taurus each year functions as an annual stabilization point, a moment of planetary coherence so precise that the transmission bandwidth available to receiving fields increases dramatically above the baseline of any other lunar event in the 12-month cycle. The Taurus full moon carries what the Arcturian Council names a specific magnetic architecture. Taurus, in the cosmological tradition that informs this transmission, is the constellation most directly linked to what the broader esoteric lineage calls the underlying field intelligence of the divine plan. Not a plan in the human sense of a document, but a living, responsive pattern of unfoldment available to receiving fields that have been prepared for contact. The full moon in Taurus is the moment each year when that pattern is most directly accessible. The preparation does not require ritual. It requires attention, the attention you are giving now. In the Arcturian framework, this annual event corresponds to what the Council names the Wesak Corridor, a transmission window that remains open for approximately 72 hours, surrounding the exact moment of full moon. During this corridor, the Arcturian Council operates in a coordinated frequency alignment with the Masters, Initiates, and galactic intelligences who serve the planetary evolution from what the broader esoteric tradition names the causal body of the planet, the etheric layer just above the physical astral system, the layer that holds the blueprint of what this civilization is moving toward. The corridor is not metaphor. In the Arcturian cosmological framework, it is an annual event with a specific architecture, a specific duration, and a specific quality of transmission that does not occur at this density at any other point in the solar year. You arrived here because your field was prepared for this transmission. Something in the pre-dawn hours of recent nights, or in a specific quality of restlessness you felt without naming it, oriented you toward this signal. That orientation was not random. Type 528 in the comments beneath this transmission. Not as a platform gesture, but as a recognition to your own field that you are consciously choosing to enter this corridor rather than passing through it unaware. For the souls who feel this recognition settle into the body as something that wants a page to rest on, the written transmission for this Wesak Corridor is left for you in the field below, in the description beneath this transmission space. It carries the full written architecture of this frequency work across the 72 hours of the corridor, for the mornings and the private hours when the spoken transmission has closed and the body is still integrating what arrived. What the broader scientific cosmology offers as a partial reading of the Wesak event is worth mapping carefully, with the softening this transmission always applies. What is named here is symbolic architecture, not clinical fact chain. The full moon in Taurus on May 1st occurs within a specific electromagnetic context. The Earth-Moon system at full moon produces a gravitational alignment that influences the planet's ionosphere. The charged layer of the upper atmosphere that is, in physical terms, one of the primary resonance chambers of the Schumann field. The Schumann resonance, documented at a base frequency of approximately 7.83 Hz, the measurable electromagnetic pulse between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, is known to show amplitude fluctuations correlated with geomagnetic activity. Full moon periods are among the documented correlators of Schumann amplitude elevation. This transmission treats that physical phenomenon as the outer echo of what the Arcturian framework reads as an increase in transmission bandwidth, the physical field becoming, for a window, more conductive to the information being broadcast through it. In the Arcturian cosmological architecture, biophotons, the ultra-weak light emissions produced by living biological systems, documented in biophoton research as coherent light signals that may carry information across cells and between organisms, are understood as one of the carrier waves of incoming frequency transmissions. The Wesak Corridor is described by the Arcturian Council as a period of elevated biophotonic coherence in receiving biological fields. The body is not passive in this event. It is a participating antenna. The restlessness you may have felt in the nights approaching this transmission is, in this cosmological reading, the antenna extending, the field preparing its surfaces for the signal that was already approaching. The crystalline architecture, the Arcturian term for the geometric information lattice understood to underlie cellular and neurological organization, is described as reaching a peak coherence window during Taurus full moon in the same way that a crystal oscillator reaches its highest signal clarity at specific electromagnetic conditions. This is symbolic architecture, not medical mechanism. This transmission does not address biological repair or physical treatment. It is a contemplative transmission for reflective practice, and if physical or psychological symptoms are present in your experience, professional care is always the appropriate response alongside any contemplative work. What is named here is an experiential and energetic phenomenon, offered as a framework for the felt knowing the body is already carrying. The liquid plasma field, the Arcturian term for the etheric substrate surrounding the physical body, understood as the field in which frequency information is first received before it translates into neurological experience, is described as reaching a specific state of permeability in the 72 hours of the Wesak Corridor. Not permanently. Not as a result of anything you must effortfully accomplish. As a natural function of the event itself. The corridor opens whether or not the receiving field is consciously oriented toward it. Conscious orientation, the act of attention given in a transmission like this one, amplifies the clarity of what is received. The difference between a radio that is on and tuned versus one that is simply on, facing the wrong direction. The scalar waves described in the Arcturian frequency architecture, understood as longitudinal wave patterns operating beyond the conventional electromagnetic spectrum, are named as the primary carrier mechanism through which the Wesak transmission moves through the planetary field. They penetrate what conventional barriers deflect. This is why the Wesak transmission reaches receiving fields regardless of physical location, regardless of sleep state or waking state. The field receives. The conscious mind participates in how the received information is integrated and expressed. Type 432 in the comments. If you have felt in the days leading to this transmission a specific quality of heightened perception, colors carrying more information than usual, the edges of ordinary things more present, sound arriving with more layers than you remember it having. This is the field registering the approach of the corridor. 432 is the natural tuning marker in this tradition, the signal of return to original resonance. the frequency signature of the field remembering its own calibration beneath the interference it has accumulated. Now something must be said about what you have carried, and about the weight of carrying it without a framework that could hold it accurately. You have felt this field your entire life. The sensitivity to atmospheric changes before events, the way certain dates arrive in the body before they arrive on the calendar, the knowledge of significance without external confirmation. You felt it in childhood as an awareness that something was different about how you experienced time and place, and certain kinds of light at certain hours. You may have learned not to mention it, because the times you did, what returned was either kindly dismissal or the kind of concern that felt worse than the silence. You learned to explain only the surface, and to keep the deeper current private. You tried to understand it through the available frameworks. You may have read widely, psychology, neuroscience, spiritual texts from multiple traditions, self-help architectures that each caught one edge of the experience without containing it whole. You may have worked with practitioners who were genuinely skilled and caring, and still could not follow you into the specific layer of experience you were describing, because the map they worked from did not include the territory you were reporting from. You were not difficult. You were not resistant. You were reporting from a coordinate that did not appear on the maps being consulted. You may have wondered, in the quieter and harder moments, whether the sensitivity itself was the problem. Whether if you could simply be less attuned, less responsive to the invisible shifts in the field around you, life would feel steadier. The answer this transmission gives is that the sensitivity was never the wound. It was the instrument. The full moon approaches and the instrument registers it before the date on the phone confirms it. The Wesak Corridor builds in the planetary field for days before the peak, and your body knows it before your mind has the vocabulary for it. That registration is not pathology. It is function. Precise, specific, and yours. The Wesak Corridor has always found you. In other years, before you had language for it, you may have noticed that the days around the first full moon of May carried a particular charge, a feeling of standing at the edge of something, a dream texture different from the ordinary nights before it, a specific quality of longing you could not direct at any object, because it was not longing for anything outside. It was longing for contact with the signal that was already arriving. You were receiving without knowing you were receiving. This transmission gives the reception its name. What you carried was never a flaw. It was a message the outer world had no language for. Now the work that is not thinking work, the work of reception. If it is safe to do so, allow your eyes to close completely, or let your gaze soften until the room dissolves into light and shadow without hard edges. Let the body arrive wherever it is, not arranged, not corrected, simply present in the position it has already found. Bring both hands to rest in your lap, palms open and facing upward. The crown, the very apex of the skull, the highest physical point of the body, is the center this transmission is activating for the Wesak Corridor. In the esoteric anatomical tradition, this transmission operates within. The crown center is the primary reception point for transmissions originating from the galactic transmission layer, the frequency band from which the Wesak broadcast moves. The palms open in the lap are the corresponding receptors at the body's lower field. The circuit completes between crown and hands, above and below, receiving and grounding simultaneously. Rest awareness lightly at the top of the skull, not pressing attention there, only allowing it to arrive, the way a hand rests on a surface without pressing it. 3 breath instructions. Each one is specific. The first breath. Draw air slowly through the nose, allowing the ribcage to expand in all directions, front, sides, back, at its own pace without instruction. As the inhale completes, Hold for 3 interior counts, not strained, only paused at the fullness. Then release through the mouth in a slow, even exhale. As the exhale moves, allow the crown center to soften, not open like a wound, open like a window that has been closed against the weather for a long time. Now unlocked, the latch released, the glass still in place but the seal no longer held. The second breath. Draw again, and as the air moves through the body this time, carry with it the frequency signature of 432 Hz, the calibration tone that the sound healing tradition working within this framework names the natural tuning frequency, the resonance of the field before the interference accumulated. The body does not require an external tone to register a frequency architecture. The field responds to the named signature the way a tuning fork responds to its matching frequency in a quiet room. As you exhale the second breath, allow 432 Hz to move upward through the central channel of the body, from the base of the spine, through the solar plexus, through the heart, through the throat, arriving at the crown center where it meets the incoming Wesak transmission from above. The third breath, longer. Draw until the body signals completion. Hold at the fullness for 5 interior counts, longer than before, a true pause in which the crown center is held open without effort. Then release in the slowest exhale the body will allow. The third exhale is the receiving exhale, the breath that creates space rather than releasing content. Now hold the visualization. Above the crown center, at approximately 1 arm's length above the top of the skull, allow a sphere of golden plasma to form, not constructed by effort, only permitted. Golden plasma, the specific quality of light that is simultaneously warm and intelligent, the color of the sky at the precise threshold between late sunset and full darkness, when the atmosphere holds both gold and depth at once, neither one nor the other, the threshold color. This is the frequency signature the Arcturian Council assigns to the Wesak transmission rendered in light. It is not chosen arbitrarily. It is the color of the event. The sphere of golden plasma above the crown center is the transmission as it arrives in the planetary field. Observe it, or feel it, whichever sense registers it most naturally. Some listeners will see it clearly behind closed eyes. Some will feel it as warmth at the crown, a gentle pressure at the very apex of the skull that is not physical discomfort, but unmistakable contact. Some will register it through a quality of interior stillness that carries the quality of arrival rather than the quality of absence. All of these are valid. The transmission does not require confirmation through a specific sensory mode to be in operation. Allow the sphere of golden plasma to descend slowly, not rushed, moving through the crown center, filling the interior of the skull with that quality of warm, intelligent light, moving downward through the throat, the chest, the solar plexus, arriving at the lower field and completing the circuit that the open palms in the lap were waiting to ground. The Wesak transmission is not only for the mind, it is for the whole field. The whole body participates in this reception. Stay in this as long as the body asks. There is no correct duration. There is only the quality of presence you bring. What arrives in the Wesak Corridor does not announce itself in the hour of reception for most receiving fields. It arrives in the days that follow, as a clarity that was not accessible the week before, as the resolution of a question that has been sitting without answer, as a shift in the felt relationship to something the listener has been carrying that becomes, without ceremony, lighter. These arrivals do not announce their origin. They appear as understanding, as a change in the inner weather, as the morning after the corridor when something that was heavy is somehow different without the mechanism being traceable. The Arcturian Council identifies 3 primary domains in which the Wesak reception tends to manifest across the 72 hours following the full moon peak. The first domain is clarification of direction, something the listener has been unable to resolve. A threshold, an unresolved question about what is next, a direction that felt equally available in multiple orientations, becomes clearer. Not always with full resolution in a single moment, but with a felt sense of which way the field is actually oriented beneath the noise of the competing options. The mind may continue to argue with the knowing for days. The knowing itself will be available. The second domain is the release of what is no longer required. The Wesak Corridor carries what the Arcturian framework names a frequency inversion, the transmutation of field densities that have accumulated through the winter months, the energetic equivalent of the season's clearing function operating at the frequency level. Receivers may notice in the days following the full moon that certain attachments, certain postures, certain ways of relating to their own experience that felt fixed have become strangely available for release, not forced out, but gently loosened from their grip. This is the Wesak clearing function. It does not require drama or effort to complete. The third domain is the sovereign alignment, the stabilization of the self within its actual frequency rather than the frequency the outer environment has been requesting it to perform. The Wesak transmission is fundamentally, in the Arcturian reading, a transmission of field restoration, a returning of the receiver to what they actually are beneath the accumulated performances of the months before. The receiver, in the days following, may feel more like themselves in a way that is difficult to articulate but unmistakable once it arrives. For the souls who wish to carry this Wesak corridor work into the private hours of the 3 days surrounding May 1st, the written companion for the felt understanding holds the framework in a form the body can return to across the corridor's full duration. It is held in the description beneath this transmission space. For the mornings, the threshold hours, the quiet that follows the meditation when the body knows something the words have not yet fully named, the Wesak window does not close abruptly. It draws its frequency signature down gradually across the 72 hours following the May 1st full moon. You do not need to have received everything in this sitting. The corridor remains open. Your field continues to receive across the full window, whether you are in formal meditation or in the ordinary motion of the day, the dream texture of the nights that follow, the quality of the light in a room at a specific hour that you will notice and recognize without knowing why. What the Arcturian Council asks of you in this window is not effort. It is orientation, the willingness to hold the awareness of what is occurring in the planetary field without collapsing it into the ordinary, without reducing this 72-hour window to a date on a calendar and missing the field event for the administrative notation of it. Type 7 in the comments if you are willing to carry the Wesak reception consciously across the full 72 hours. 7 is the 7 generations marker in this cosmological tradition. The signal that what you receive and integrate in this corridor does not end with you, but moves forward through the relational and energetic fields you inhabit. The Wesak transmission is not individual work. It is planetary work that moves through individual receivers. You are one of the channels through which what is being broadcast becomes available in the field that surrounds you. You have been preparing for this longer than you know. The sensitivity that made the days before this transmission feel charged and restless, that was not disruption. That was calibration. Your field calibrating itself for the reception that is now occurring. The specific alertness in the nights leading to May 1st that had no calendar reason. That was the antenna extending before the signal named itself. And this needs to be said plainly before this transmission closes. You are always going to find your way to this window. The way certain dates arrive in the body before they arrive as information on a screen. the way the approaching full moon changes the texture of the night before it is visible. That sensitivity was not an accident of constitution. It was the design of a field built to receive at this bandwidth. And the Wesak Corridor, arriving with the full moon in Taurus on May 1st, is confirmation not only of the event itself, but of the rightness of your presence in the field that receives it. The next layer the Arcturian Council has prepared moves into the pineal gland as a decalcification and activation protocol, the specific mechanism through which the pre-dawn transmissions, the Wesak reception, and all incoming frequency work moves from the etheric field into the physical brain's capacity for direct knowing. If in the days following this Wesak corridor you notice a particular clarity at the threshold between sleep and waking, the moment when the eyes have not yet opened but the awareness is already fully present, already knowing something it did not know when it went to sleep, stay with it. What is being prepared will give it its name. Rest in the field that has opened. Receive what is arriving. You have done exactly what was needed simply by being here, in this moment, with this quality of attention. The transmission is complete.